what does it mean to be human? This is a very important question for us because it could have an impact on our health. But before I go into what it means to be human, let's talk about what research has discovered about our brain and our bodies. Number one, as an example, when we move our fingers and when we think about moving our fingers, that is exactly the same thing as far as our brain is concerned. In other words, our brain thinks and moves the same pathways. So when we think about something, the same pathway is used when we move something. That's very important to understand. The other thing is that our brain has a map of every part of our body. It has a map of our hands, have a map of our joints. It even has a map of our stomach, our heart, our intestines, everything. So what does that mean is when we injure an ankle, a finger, when we have problems with our stomach, that actually impacts the brain as well. Okay. Simply walking outside or walking down the hall is actually a brain exercise. We walk because of our brain. We don't walk because our legs make us do it. We walk because our brain does it, and it actually helps our brain to be healthy. Now, the other thing is that the brain stem, which is right here, as you can see the spine, this is the neck, okay? This is the brain stem right here. It attaches the bigger part, okay, to the rest of our body. Everything that comes from our body goes through the brain stem up to the higher brain. Everything that comes from here goes through the brain stem to the rest of us. So being physical, the muscles in our body, what we call receptors in our body, are all key and important in keeping a healthy brain. Okay? Because 90% of what goes up here goes through there. And a specific part, which I believe is one of the most important parts of our body, or our brain system, is called the PMRF. Now, what does that mean? That stands for the pontomedullary reticular formation. Big, right? PMRF. It's, I believe, one of the most important parts of our brain system, and this is why. The PMRF is located right about here. There's a place in the brainstem called the pons. It's called, there's also medulla. And reticular formation kind of means a collection of cells. So I would think you could think of it as sort of like a relay station or a train station or something along those lines, where information comes in, it's processed and put on another train, and then it goes out again. So it's a very important part of your body. Now here are the things that the PMRF does. One, it determines global muscle tone. In other words, it determines the tones of my muscles, how they are, whether they're too tight, whether they're too loose, whatever. That's number one. It also determines or actually monitors posture. Very important, right? Posture being, am I standing upright? Am I slouching? Whatever. It does that. The other thing it does, okay, which I think is one of the most important parts, they're all very important, but it also monitors or regulates the sympathetic nervous system. Now, what do I mean by the sympathetic nervous system? The sympathetic nervous system basically makes your heart go faster, your blood pressure go up, it shuts down digestion, okay? It does a lot of those things because have you ever heard of the fight or flight response that we have? You're responding to stress, okay? Stress makes everything more excited so that your body is more awake and more aware and wants to deal with the situation. The PMRF keeps that calm. Now, let's talk about some research done on the PMRF. The PMRF has been shown that after about 20 minutes of sitting or being stationary, I'm talking about standing too, it shuts off. It just turns off. And then what happens then is that your posture is not regulated, your muscle tone is not regulated, And guess what? Your sympathetic nervous system is not controlled. Some significant implication there. So those are the facts that we know about our human body, our brain and body connection. Those are just some simple facts. What I'm going to do is, from those facts, you can infer or come up with theories as to why maybe we have a lot of diseases and a lot of chronic issues, everything from chronic back pain to heart conditions. Okay. I'm just going to talk about back pain for 1 second. There was a study done in Kenya, and there are very few studies done on this type of thing, but it basically compared the incidence, in other words, how often back pain occurs in a group of office workers and a group of people who lived in a tribe who didn't work in an office. Now guess who had the highest incidence of back pain? The people in the office. So what is the takeaway here? The takeaway is to think about these facts that I just gave you and how living the way we're living now might have an impact, whether it be good or bad, on our health.